In a picturesque little village, there lived a playful and lovable dog named Buck. Buck had bright, shiny eyes and a tail that was always wagging. Every day, he would run to the village bakery, where the kind baker would always smile and hand him a delicious piece of bread crust. One day, Buck decided to go on an adventure into the woods outside the village. As Buck trotted along the forest path, his nose twitched eagerly, picking up all the fascinating scents around him. The earthy smell of damp soil, the faint sweetness of blooming wildflowers, and the crisp scent of pine needles filled the air. He hopped over little streams, ran through green fields, and suddenly, under a big tree, he discovered a huge, juicy bone.
Wow! Oh my goodness! This must be the biggest, tastiest, most wonderful bone in the whole wide world.
Buck exclaimed in excitement. He carefully picked up the bone, as if it were the most valuable treasure in the world.
This bone will last me for days. I must hurry home and hide it somewhere safe.
With a joyful heart, Buck began his journey home. He walked very carefully, afraid he might drop his precious bone. On his way back, Buck came to a small bridge at the village entrance. Beneath the bridge was a calm, clear river that reflected the sky, the clouds, and Buck, along with the bone in his mouth. Buck stopped in his tracks and looked down into the water. Suddenly, he noticed something surprising. Another dog was staring back at him.
Ooh? That dog has a bone too. And it looks even bigger than mine.
Buck's eyes widened with greed. A thought crept into his mind.
I must have that bone too. If I can grab it, I'll have 2 big bones, and I'll be the happiest dog in the village.
Buck stood on the bridge and barked at the dog in the water.
Hey! Give me your bone.
But as soon as he opened his mouth, his own precious bone slipped out and fell into the river with a loud plop. The water rippled, the reflection disappeared, and the bone was gone forever. Buck froze, staring at the water where his bone had vanished. His ears drooped, and his eyes filled with regret.
Oh no! My bone! What have I done? What should I do now?
Buck whimpered, sitting down on the bridge with a heavy sigh. Just then, a little squirrel hopped down from a nearby tree and scampered over to Buck.
Hey, Buck! Why do you look so sad? What happened?
Buck sighed deeply and told the squirrel everything that had happened.
I see,
said the squirrel thoughtfully.
Buck, do you know? That dog in the water was actually you. The bone you saw was just a reflection.
Buck's eyes widened in shock.
What? That was me?
The squirrel nodded wisely.
Yes. You already had a real, delicious bone, but your greed made you chase after an illusion, and in the end, you lost everything.
Buck's head drooped even lower.
You're right. If only I had been happy with my bone, I'd still have it now.
The squirrel patted Buck gently on the back and said,
Don't worry, Buck. The important thing is that you've learned a valuable lesson. Next time, you'll remember to be content with what you already have.
Buck nodded and managed a small smile.
Thank you, little squirrel. I've really learned something important today.
With renewed determination, Buck continued walking back to the village. This time, he held his head high and thought carefully about the squirrel's wise words. Dear little friends, this story teaches us many important lessons. Let's review them together. Be content and appreciate what you have. Buck already had a big, delicious bone, but his greed made him chase an illusion, and he ended up losing what he already had. In life, we all have our own bones. It might be your toys, a good friend, or even a small reward. Learn to cherish what you already have instead of always chasing something that might not even be real. Greed is a trap. Greed is like an invisible trap. It's easy to fall into, but hard to escape from. Just like Buck, you might end up losing more than you gain. Sometimes we might feel envious of someone else's toys, snacks, or rewards, but remember, what you have is already precious. Know the limits of desire. It's natural to want more, but we must learn to recognize when our desires are becoming too much. If you have a tasty candy, a beautiful toy, or a fun book, appreciate it instead of always wanting more. Appearances can be deceptive. Buck was fooled by his own reflection because he didn't stop to think. Sometimes things aren't as they seem. We might see someone with better toys or fancier things, but true happiness comes from within, not from comparing ourselves to others. Learn from mistakes. At the end of the story, Buck realized his mistake and learned from it. Everyone makes mistakes, and that's okay. The important thing is to reflect on them and grow wiser. The power of friendship and kindness. The squirrel didn't laugh at Buck's mistake, but patiently helped him understand. When a friend makes a mistake, be like the squirrel, kind, patient, and wise. Think before you act. Buck acted impulsively without thinking, and it cost him his bone. When you have a choice to make, stop and think carefully before acting. This can save you from regret. I hope you enjoy the story today. Goodbye, and see you next time.